first of all, so very honored and feel so gratified for the friendship that we've established over these years. It's hard to believe that now we first met in 2014, 8 years ago. And I think that it's for us, it's very exciting to be able to come to a theater and work with a company that feels the same way that we do about being fully inclusive with everyone. I learned very quickly when I started working with Theater by the Blind that the quality of the work by the artists, many of whom were blind and low vision, was no different. It was not diminished because of a disability. And I felt early on, as we all felt, that there is always a stigma attached to disability. When you have a disability, you automatically think this person cannot function the same way as a, quote, normal person can function. And therefore, anything that they produce is going to be inferior or different from what most people would perceive professional. Many people ask me, what is it like to work with disabled artists? And my answer is always the same. It's like working with any other artist. There really is no difference aside from the fact that we have to make accommodations. But we have to do that with every artist. Every artist has their needs. And as the art makers, it's our job to provide our artists with whatever they need to help them create their best work.
私も全く演出家として同じことを思います。結局、演出家がすることっていうのは、俳優がこの人はどういう人間なんだろうかっていうことを見、そして、この人の得意なことは何だろうか、苦手なことは何だろうかっていうことを見ながら目標に向かって、目標に向かってのその道を探したり、時には目的を少し変えたりするっていうことなんですよね。だからそこでもちろん演出家が一方的に、求め考えっていうことではなくて、俳優の人とかスタッフの人とかとイメージを共有しながら、その、イメージをどうやったら発展させられるかっていうことを、コラボレーションを通じて考えていくっていうのが基本的に、相手が誰であろうとやるプロセスなんですよね。そうすると、常に関係の中で相手が誰であろうと3種類のことが生まれてきて、一つは、こっちが思ったようにやってくれる部分が一つ目で、もう一つが思ったようにはやって、できないっていうか思ったようにやってくれない部分と、もう一つは思った以上にやってくれる部分っていうのが出てきて、この3つをどう組み合わせていくかっていうのがそのコラボレーションの面白いところなんですね。
Yes, ours is an art of collaboration. Always, it's always the idea of coming together as a group and trying to come to the same ideas, the same path, so we can find our way to create the work that we want to create. And I think and once again, when we speak of this, we began with working with artists with disabilities, but we quickly now are into this idea that this is how it is with all theater, with all, it's always a collaboration. When it comes to physical disabilities or cognitive disabilities or any others, it's very important that we as the art makers are aware of this so that we can be sensitive to everyone's needs. Oftentimes in sort of the mainstream perception is that is an impossible task. It's too difficult. It adds more time and more money and all of these other issues. And my experience with that is not true.
そもそも演劇っていうのは、これも演劇についてもいろんな考え方があるとは思うんですけど、僕は演劇の中ではすごく重要なことっていうのは結局、人間が舞台上にいる人たちが輝く瞬間をどれだけ作れるかっていうことが演劇表現の一つの重要なポイントだと思ってるんです。物語を通じて演じることを通じて人が輝く瞬間がある。それをどれだけ作っていけるかっていうことがその演劇の時間を作ることだっていうふうに思ってるんです。だから、つまりそれは、障害があるとかないとかっていうことと、そもそも関係がないっていう言い方はできるんだと思うんですね。その障害によって、障害ばかりが見えてその人の内側のものが見えなくなって、例えばアンマリーさんは車椅子だし、スコットさんも杖をつかれている。しかし、そのことを除けば、これ言い方が難しいけれど全く普通に、俳優として演じることができる。そうするとその、いわば普通に演じられる俳優としての力をちゃんと周りの人間が評価しなければならないっていうことがまず一つはあるんだと思うんですよね。そしてもう一つのことっていうのは、おそらく障害っていうことを通じて彼らが、いろんな経験をすることで普通以上にできるようになっていることがある。普通以上に蓄積されている体験があるっていうこと。その、普通以上のことをどうやって伝えるかっていう面白さもあるんだと思ってる。
Disability, we see disability as a human characteristic, very simply. A characteristic like hair color, like eye color, a disability, whatever type of disability, it's a human characteristic. So the big picture for us is how can we change the perception of what our society, our world, our different cultures feel about disability. We feel that through our art, through this art, we have a great potential and great power to help change people's ideas of disability. Because through the art of telling stories, we allow our audiences to empathize with the characters that our artists portray. So if they see an artist on stage with a disability, but then this artist is portraying a character that they now can relate to in an emotional way, more than intellectual, beyond intellectual, it allows them to empathize and realize that we're the same. And then disability is not as big, or it doesn't matter as much. Disability should only matter as much as we, the artists, want it to matter in how we choose to portray it. If there's one lesson I think we've learned during this pandemic, during a time when we had to isolate and separate, the lesson is indeed how much we all need each other. So the ability to find ways to connect, to look beyond what we see, to realize the humanity in each of us. That to me is sort of the eternal question, the eternal problem. If we can solve that, we can solve many problems in our world.